Beyond the gates, spoilers tease that the quiet veneer of this seaside town conceals a darkness so corrosive that even the most honorable souls can be ensnared in its web. Rumors have long whispered of Detective Marcel Malone's unholy alliance with local criminal Joey Armstrong, whispers that speak of betrayals, cover UPS, and deeds so vile they defy comprehension. And yet, these rumors remained just that until Bradley "Smitty" Smith, a man of unwavering principle, began to follow the faintest threads of evidence, unmasking a conspiracy that would shake every cornerstone of law and trust. It all began on a crisp summer evening when Smitty, usually stationed at his desk poring over mundane paperwork, received a tip from an anonymous source. The message was simple yet incendiary: Malone and Armstrong. Yacht Club. Evidence inside. Intrigued, Smitty traced the lead to the exclusive Ocean View Yacht Club, where Malone's polished reputation as a retiring hero had granted him unrestricted access. Using a stolen guest credential, Smitty slipped past the grand entrance and found himself amid teakwood decks and white canopies swaying in the warm breeze. There, in a secluded pavilion, he discovered a series of photographs bound with a thin ribbon of black satin. Each image depicted Malone and Armstrong in compromising proximity handshakes, hushed exchanges over champagne flutes, Armstrong's predatory grin as Malone assured him of continued favors. As Smitty studied the photos under the amber glow of lantern light, a cold realization settled in his bones. This was not a mere social acquaintance, but a calculated partnership that blurred the line between enforcement and exploitation. Returning to his precinct under cover of darkness, Smitty felt both exhilarated and burdened by the weight of his discovery. He knew exposing Malone could upend his career and perhaps his life, but turning a blind eye would betray everything he had sworn to uphold. He placed the photographs in an evidence packet, labeling them Confidential Malone/Armstrong Relationship. Yet, as he prepared to dig deeper, a more personal connection emerged among the shadows: the name Martin Richardson. It was during a late-night review of office records that Smitty noticed a series of encrypted calls linking Malone not only to Armstrong, but also to a number registered in Martin Richardson's name. He furrowed his brow. Martin, his own wife. The thought churned dread through his veins. Questions erupted. What involvement could Martin possibly have? Had she known all along? Was she complicit, or, worse, a co-conspirator? Determined to find answers, Smitty first sought incontrovertible proof. He recalled an old framed photograph hanging in Malone's sunroom, a retirement gift from the precinct, depicting Malone standing aboard his yacht alongside several prominent club members, among them a familiar face silhouetted just behind Malone's shoulder. Zooming in mentally on the grainy print, Smitty recognized the tall, lean frame and the confident stance: Martin Richardson. The next morning, Smitty confronted Malone under the guise of a routine station visit. Malone, impeccably groomed in his pressed uniform, greeted him with a veneer of geniality. "Bradley, to what do I owe the pleasure?" he asked, voice smooth as well-aged bourbon. "Detective," Smitty replied evenly, pulling out the photograph. "Care to explain why Mrs. Richardson appears in your retirement portrait at the yacht club?" Malone's face flickered with surprise, quickly masked by professional composure. "Martin? She's a friend of the family. Her father used to sail with me decades ago. Purely social." Smitty nodded slowly, but his eyes burned with skepticism. "She's been far more present than family friend." And these photos, he slid out the damning images of Malone and Armstrong, suggest a partnership that extends well beyond innocent pleasantries. For a fraction of a second, Malone's jaw tightened. Then he chuckled, a low, dismissive sound. "Bradley, you're chasing ghosts. Joey Armstrong's nothing more than a nuisance to the police. I've only maintained relations to keep an eye on him. Everything I do in service of the community." But Smitty saw the lie in Malone's eyes. He watched Malone regroup, straighten his back, and envelop his guilt in a practiced mask of authority. Smitty excused himself, pocketing the photographs, and stepped back into the corridor, tension coiling in every muscle. By dusk, Smitty knew he had to talk to Martin. His hands trembled as he dialed her extension at home. When her familiar voice answered, he tried to steady his tone. "Martin, can you come down to the station? It's important." Unbeknownst to Martin, the gears of fate were already in motion. She arrived at the precinct just as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in bruised purples and reds. Smitty met her at the entrance, his face drawn. "We need to talk," he said simply, leading her to an empty interview room. She sat, anxiety flickering in her eyes. "What's wrong, Smitty?" He placed the retirement gift photo on the table, followed by the images of Malone and Armstrong. Martin's lips parted in shock. "I don't know why my photo's there. And those can't be real." "They are," he said gently. "Tell me what you know about your relationship with Malone and Armstrong." Martin closed her eyes, swallowed hard. Memories surfaced, an idyllic childhood spent on her father's sailboat, where Malone, then a junior detective, had treated her like his goddaughter. She'd seen him socialize with Armstrong at charity regattas, dismissing him as a harmless playboy. But then came the night she remembered only too well, the night she'd been dosed at Malone's yacht, waking up disoriented amid sirens and flashing lights, bloodied and broken but saved from something she couldn't fully recall. Tears welled as she spoke, voice trembling. He said it was for her safety. That I'd been careless snooping into Laura Peterson's case. Next thing I remember, my vision blurred, and I woke in the hospital covered in bruises. Malone told me I'd been attacked, that I was lucky he'd found me. Smitty leaned forward, heart pounding. "He drugged you?" Martin nodded, shame reddening her cheeks. "I was too mortified to tell you. I thought it would compromise the investigation. I thought if I kept quiet, I'd be protecting you too." Smitty felt a surge of fury and grief. He reached across the table, taking her hand. "You protected me when you should have told me. But now we expose this. I swear Malone and Armstrong will pay for what they've done to you and to this town." Martin looked up, hope mingling with fear in her eyes. "Are you sure we can win?" He squeezed her hand. "I've got every reason to. We'll gather evidence: Malone's call logs, Armstrong's transactions, the yacht club logs. We'll show the prosecutors the depth of their corruption." As they plodded through the night, every detail sharpened the timing of Malone's calls home just before crucial case breakthroughs, Armstrong's sudden dismissals of charges, the testimony of club staff who'd seen secret exchanges. Martin realized she held the key testimony, her own memory a puzzle piece that completed the larger picture. And Smitty, resolute as ever, vowed to see justice done. But beyond the station's barred windows, the night breeze carried a warning. Malone would not surrender without a fight. Joey Armstrong's reach extended into the underbelly of the criminal world. And once Smitty launched his formal complaint, the full fury of their combined might would descend on anyone who dared stand against them. Yet in that electrifying moment, husband and wife stood united, no longer victim and protector, but crusaders against a darkness that threatened to engulf them all. Their resolve was a beacon against the storm, illuminating the path toward truth. And although the battles ahead would test their courage, nothing could dim the light of a righteous cause fueled by love, honor, and an unbreakable pledge to see beyond the gates redeemed. The first pale light of dawn found Martin Richardson pacing the dusty floorboards of the abandoned warehouse, remnant wooden beams groaning overhead at each step. The air, laced with salt and old machine oil, carried with it the weight of unspoken truths. As the sky brightened beyond the shattered windows, Martin's thoughts drifted to Smitty's determined eyes that would not relent until every secret was laid bare. Now, with Malone's leverage over him stripped away by Martin's own confession, the former detective's reach seemed diminished, but danger had a way of morphing into new guises. Meanwhile, Smitty stood just outside the warehouse threshold, badge in hand, surveying the scene as police lanterns flared to life on the dock. The early morning mist curled around his boots, and his breath puffed in rhythmic spurts. Beside him, Naomi Hawthorne clutched the leather-bound journal, its brittle pages inked with June's desperate pleas, and spoke in a low voice. These entries. They implicate more than Malone. Someone higher up must have ordered the cover-up. Smitty nodded grimly. We'll need to cross-reference these names with precinct records. A clean desk doesn't mean a clean conscience. With a decisive gesture, he stepped into the cavernous shed where Martin waited. The trio formed a tight circle around the scuffed projector table. Martin laid out photographs of June's children as they had been smiling innocently on the carousel floor. Each image hung in the space between memory and hope, a testament to what was lost and what still might be recovered. We find them, we reunite them, Martin vowed, fingers trembling over a worn snapshot. No more running. Naomi pressed a gentle hand on his shoulder. And no more hiding. Then to Smitty. What's our next move? Smitty pulled out his notebook. First, we secure arrest warrants for Malone and Armstrong. Then, we trace every transaction they've made since June 2007. Finally, we locate the children's safe house, guided by the journal's coordinates. As they conspired, shadows gathered beyond the broken doors. Unseen by the trio, someone watched alert, calculating. Inside Malone's old patrol car parked down the quay, a lone figure flicked off the car's interior light. Malone himself, pale-faced and tense, studied his reflection in the rearview mirror. He had received Smitty's summons to appear at headquarters that morning, but instinct told him it was a trap. Joey Armstrong had vanished days ago. Malone's only ally in the underworld had gone silent. Now, Malone wondered whether Armstrong had been sacrificed to protect him, or if Armstrong intended a last, merciless betrayal. His hand hovered over the door handle. He could flee, disappear into the winding coastal roads, perhaps even sail to freedom. But failure to appear at headquarters would confirm his guilt. So he sat in the gloom, thoughts racing, until his phone buzzed with a single text, "Meet me at Sanborn Wharf. Midnight." J. Malone's heart sank. June's initials. Whoever controlled June's fate controlled Malone's. He slipped the phone into his pocket and braced himself. The tide of justice was rising, and he was swept in its undertow. By nightfall, the warehouse hummed with activity as detectives sealed off evidence and forensic teams processed the hidden room where June's children had lived. Their presence, two girls and a boy, now teenagers, represented both tragedy and triumph. Tragedy at the years stolen, triumph at the possibility of reclamation. June wept as she embraced each, her tears mingling with laughter as names were confirmed and memories tentatively reclaimed. Outside, Smitty approached his captain, handing over the compiled dossier. "Here are the warrants." The captain's brow furrowed as he read, Detective Marcel Malone, conspiracy and assault, Joey Armstrong, child abduction and corruption. "Smitty, this is explosive." "Explosive, yes," Smitty replied. "But justice demands it." That midnight rendezvous at Sanborn Wharf was shrouded in fog thicker than any Martin had witnessed. Malone crept behind weathered pilings, every creak of timber setting his nerves alight. He scanned the darkness until a single silhouette emerged: June, her face illuminated by lantern light, journal in hand. "You called me," he rasped. She held the journal aloft. "You promised the truth." "Where are my children hidden?" Malone exhaled slowly. "I was following orders from someone above me. I never wanted this." June's lips twisted. "You drugged Martin. You watched the children be taken. You've seen them shackled, frightened, alone." He lowered his head. "I didn't know it was children. I thought it was document files from the Peterson case." Her voice trembled. "That was your lie. Now tell me the real reason. Who orchestrated this?" He swallowed, glancing down at the journal's cover. June's Hope, MD. The initials belonged to Daniel Parker. He was the district attorney at the time. He wanted to bury evidence that Laura Peterson had discovered evidence linking him to offshore embezzlement. June's fist clenched. Parker. Of course. He's untouchable. Malone nodded. He assured me that if I kept things quiet, controlled Martin, and ensured the Peterson files stayed hidden, I'd have a legacy free of scandal. But Armstrong and I were just pawns. Parker's the mastermind. A sudden shout echoed from the warehouse entrance. Smitty's voice. Malone. You're under arrest. Malone's eyes darted to the shadows. June stepped forward, handing him over to the waiting officers. He didn't resist. Back inside, as officers escorted Parker's sealed indictment file into evidence, Smitty addressed the gathered press. Today, we reveal a conspiracy that spanned decades. His words carried on the night breeze, promising a reckoning that would restore faith in justice. And as dawn broke once again over the harbor, the tide carried away the remnants of corruption. Those scars remained. They served as reminders that truth, no matter how deeply buried, would always rise.